Welcome back, Halo followers. Today we got a fun video. We're going to be talking about how Halo Infinite has improved since the July build. In 343's most recent blog post where they reveal multiplayer, they went through a lot of very specific things that I think you will all find very interesting if you thought the July build was less than phenomenal as far as visual aspects go, but also other things. So this is really juicy stuff in my opinion. It talks about how the level of detail is increasing across the board and exactly what is changing here, and some things that I didn't even think was a big problem, but nonetheless, they are improving it. You know, we know that the game is now releasing November 15th, 2021 next year, so 11 months from now, so they have a lot of time to work on this game that, by the way, was mentioned as content complete. You know, we heard that from Calabriel, you know, the insider that said that, yeah, this game is content complete, and now they're using that verbiage, which I find very interesting. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. Be sure to smash this video's like button, blue so hard, so hard it turns blue, and subscribe, all right? Join me on the journey of following Halo for over 9 years, going on to 10, all right? They say this first part is actually about Craig, all right? So they say, speaking of improvements on the art of the now world-renowned Craig, why we in the internet have come to love our dear Craig. We know that he wasn't his best self back in July. Can you give us any updates on Craig as he stands today? They say, I can confirm that the facial animation on NPCs was not fully implemented in that build, which resulted in Craig's incredibly deadpan and lifeless look. Which, by the way, Craig wouldn't be a meme if he didn't have the deadpan or lifeless look. Just saying. All characters are modeled in a neutral pose prior to blend shapes and animation being applied. So this is something that will obviously, NPCs will not have, they'll have animations, movements in their faces, depending on what's happening, right? They say that there's been further work on the material fidelity and more variety added for brute faces. We're also working to add some hairdos and beards. All right, that's huge. That's super huge. One thing that these brutes have been lacking that we've seen so far in the July reveal is no hair. They don't have any hair. And, that's probably something that needs to, have some physics, some technicality, some technical stuff goes in behind it. So it just didn't make it into that build. But it is something that is coming, and I think that absolutely is needed. Bears, sorry, not bears, but brutes are very hairy. So they say Craig isn't the only model to see improvements, though. There has been significant changes to other characters and 3D models as we continue to evolve and polish our content, some of which can be seen in the Spartan and weapon renders being shared today. So they're improving other, Covenant members, or banished members rather, but ex-Covenant, I guess, in this case. But also, the Spartan renders look absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so happy that things are being improved upon and they have all this extra time. So let's move on and talk about visual fidelity across the board, right? So they say when it comes to visual fidelity, the team has been making progress since July, as we can see in some of the latest images we're sharing here today. Can you talk about some of the specific areas the team has been developing or working on? Some of the key areas of progress include better quality of global illumination. All right, that's just light basically spreading around the world, bouncing off everything, right? Ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is basically how close objects are together and the shadows that form in those closeness of objects together. Shadows, volumetric lighting, sky, and atmosphere. These were all really weak things that I saw in the July reveal, things that I just was not terribly impressed about. And I'm so happy that they are addressing that. And the sky, right? I think they talk about clouds in this, but that's a big thing. I don't like how poofy the clouds looked and how they didn't really fit into the environment very much. But they say, we have also addressed issues with our GPU-driven rendering and texture streaming solution that should mitigate the LOD, that's, by the way, level of detail, popping and texture quality issues that were prevalent in the July demo. So, level of detail, that is a huge thing in open world or open world type games, or like games rather. And we saw a lot of glitches in this July reveal. Like, let me remind you guys, there was a lot of glitches. Even when Craig got hit, there was like whole parts of the world breaking up and disappearing behind him. It's subtle, but once you see it, you can't really unsee it. There was also smoke appearing and disappearing in the valley as Chief went up the elevator. There was grass disappearing right in front of the player. There was a lot of issues on a technical level here. And getting that optimization right is certainly a difficult thing. So obviously that was a work in progress thing, but they are working on improving it a lot. They say, firstly, there's been a lot of work retuning our dynamic lighting values to add more punch and contrast to the image. These included adjustments to our sun intensity, fog and atmosphere, and the addition of color grading, which did not make it into the July reveal demo. So that confirms two things. There was no color grading in the July demo, and there will be color grading in the final game. They say we're improved some of our materials to get more specular response, more wear and tear on weapons and vehicles, more fidelity in our characters, and more macro breakup on large surfaces like rocks, terrain, and hex walls. We're also getting more of our textural detail coming through the final frame thanks to the sharpening process that our graphics team have added. So they are getting a lot better on basically, I guess, the wear and tear of weapons and vehicles. That's a huge thing, but also the environment. You know, if we're to believe that this huge fight happened, there can't be perfectly, like, right off the factory, warthogs just sitting in the environment. You know, they need to at least be flipped over or damaged, you know. But they say we're also getting more of our textural detail coming through some kind of process that is essentially making everything look nicer. They say we're eager to show the process the team has made in the campaign as soon as we can. That probably won't happen, by the way, for a while. But with this whole multiplayer thing, I think the multiplayer marketing has begun. I think the hype train has started to be rebooted. And by the way, just to think about that, Sketch has actually confirmed no more news for the rest of the year, all right? For the rest of December, throughout the year, no more news. That was it. No more. The December 17th update was this, I think, or it was canceled. But there's no December 17th update anymore. But I'm okay with that because it came early and it was way more than what I expected for the July or December 17th update anyway. But let's talk a little bit more about graphics and the art side of things. They say much of the feedback we heard from the community aligned with our own views and work we had already committed to doing around those things like indirect lighting, material response, foliage, and tree rendering. Those are big things. And here they say clouds, all right? Level of detail transitions, super, super important, all right? Because that will make a game look really bad if it doesn't have, you know, good transitions in the environment. And I think they actually talk about that later, or maybe earlier, I don't know. But yeah, super important. The world just looks weird in that demo. So anyway, they say still the feedback was humbling and it also pushed us to look at additional opportunities for improvement. They say July was indeed a very much work in progress slice of technology and a reasonable set of key features from global illumination and dynamic time of day to GPU driven rendering and variable rate shading were all in active development. Right there. That's interesting. We'll get back to that. Much of the graphics team's capacity, along with some of the key technical artists, was focused on achieving high resolution and performance leading up to the demo, which meant several of these features didn't quite get the level of polish and bug fixing that was warranted. So right there, actually earlier they said variable rate shading were in active development. So they're not in active development anymore, which means it sounds like they're finished, which, you know, absolutely they should be, all right, because it's been like 5 months since we've seen the July demo. Has it really been that long? That sounds like a crazy amount of time, but yeah, it's been about 5 months, and the game was supposed to release in October anyway, so I just hope they keep polishing things. That's exactly what they confirm here. But they say visual fidelity is a very important goal for Halo Infinite, and the graphics arts teams have been continually aspiring and working closely with each other to create the best looking Halo game ever. I definitely want to acknowledge the input we got from the Halo community and our fan base, staying open to critical feedback and looking at areas where we can learn and do better, an inherent part of our culture at 343. And they also talk about environmental graphics, all right? So they say we've made significant improvements to our foliage, trees, and grass, both in terms of rendering fidelity and how we maintain that over distance. But that is another area being worked on, and fidelity will further improve. So they're excited to show that to us. Now, this is great because I think the grass was struggling in that demo. But ultimately, this is really the case for any game that's going to be revealed, including all past Halo E3 events have shown gameplay that did not look as good as it does at launch. All right. So that's how it used to be, by the way. Games used to look better after launch versus before launch. But hopefully that is the case here. Obviously, Halo has a long way to go from last time we saw the campaign. And yes, I realize that Halo isn't about graphics and that there's a new art style, but there is some work to do, and I'm glad that most of that work seems to have been done. Now, I'm going to leave this part for last, all right? This is the juicy part. On the art side, it's mostly further polish and bringing it all together. We have a concept of content complete, all right? That was the same thing that Calabriel said that, a month or two ago, he said that the game was content complete, and that's a pretty big thing. But it doesn't quite mean that the game is 100%. That's a very important clarification to make. It means that the game is playable, essentially. All right. They say where we get all of our content into the build and then we have time to access holistically and further polish areas that would benefit most. So the game is good, it plays well enough, and now it's time to really, iron things out, go into that corner of the world, polish it up, fix that up. So it is an important place. It's not golden, it's not finished, but it seems that the game has reached a place where it is content complete. The mocap actor has also said that too, but or hinted at it rather. Oftentimes, significant improvements are made after our content complete milestones, set dressing, mask painting, texture material improvements. Those are all super important things, by the way, because especially the texture material improvements, the AR looked very flat. Most of all the textures in the world looked very flat, and this is really because of a lighting issue. But the fact that they're going in and improving texture material things is totally welcomed. And FX and lighting tweaking, there we go, and animation, polish, variety are all still being worked on. So ultimately, what we have here is this game, all those little things that bothered people, that the game just not looking that great on a technical lighting level as well as just a visual level, have been improved at this point. But they are still addressing these things, and they have a whole year to hammer this home and improve the AI as well. That's a big thing. Like Craig having a moving face would be great, as well as all brutes, obviously that is coming, as well as hair. All right. That's really, really great news. I'm super excited to see it. And what this tells me is that they're listening. 343 has been very, it's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes they don't listen at all. Sometimes they listen completely. But it seems like they're listening to us a lot here and that they were still working on it. And honestly, if they were to reveal that same part of the game, I would think that it looks anywhere from 25 to maybe 75% better. All right. So a huge leap to the point where most people that like me that aren't too bothered by it are going to be like, okay, that's good. You're good. All right. Now go work on the multiplayer. Get rid of microtransactions. All right, guys. Anyway, that'll be it for today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button if you haven't already and subscribe. Join me on the journey of following Halo for going on to 10 years this next coming June. And it will be awesome. All right, got some giveaways planned and some cool things planned for the future of content here on HaloFollower. But I will catch you guys soon. You take care. All right, peace.